Good evening.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Sandra.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, Cynthia. None of our presenters are here yet.
Okay.
Cynthia, I have 6:30. I'm going to start the webinar now.
Okay. And as soon as our guests come, we could start.
Perhaps they've signed in as guests. That sometimes happens.
I mean, I get such a kick out of them.
It's cute when they don't crush your ribs. Well, Cynthia, last week our presenter came 8 minutes after the meeting started, so don't lose
Okay.
hope.
I was gonna say, did we confirm with them? Because we have FDNY is normally pretty good though.
Yep, we confirmed with both. I'm not sure the last time, but they also both got emails this morning and emails an hour ago.
Okay. So we'll wait at least 8 minutes.
Over in the 50s in Sunset Park, I was hearing a lot of sirens. Just want to put that out there. No idea if one thing's related to the other.
Just now or when?
Yeah, just in the last like 25 minutes. So no idea if one thing relates to the other, but it went on for a bit. I was surprised.
I don't think either would impact our current or our guest for this evening.
Thanks.
You want to do, is there a quorum and minutes and votes and old business or new business or anything else we could do if we're waiting for presenters or?
Well,
that
you could
all?
have me call attendance.
Ooh.
We can do that. Let's do that.
Okay, so you've all been through this before. I'm going to call your name. Please unmute yourself, acknowledge your name, and then mute yourself again. We'll start with Cynthia Felix.
Present.
Thank you. Jerry Chan.
Present.
Thank you. Ramon Acevedo. Joan Body.
Yeah,
Thank you. Kin Fung. John Garcia. Hector Gonzalez.
Here.
Thank you. Zachary Jacy. John Johnston. Danielle Lai. Barbara Lee. Jimmy Lee. Paul Mack. Roberto Martinez.
Present.
Thank you. Gabino Morales.
Here.
Thank you. Sam Sierra.
Present. Good evening.
Thank you. Cynthia, roll has been called. I still do not see either of our presenters here.
Okay, we'll give it 3 minutes, and then if not, I'll just drop the links that I was able to find on the fire safety prevention that we were talking about. FDNY recently put out a PSA on the lithium batteries. The reason we wanted them to present was because we had quite a few fires in the neighborhood, and we wanted to educate both businesses and homeowners, not only on lithium batteries, but also on fire safety in general. For those of you who joined when FDNY came, I believe it was back in April. Joan, you may know because I know it coincided with a little fire in your building complex. And they did a great job. They did a terrific job in giving us some safety tips so that the holidays are coming and people put additional lights and Christmas trees. We thought it would be a great idea if they were to join us today. So I'm hopeful that they're able to come. If not, we could just have a very brief discussion and I'll drop some links in the chat.
And I'll say I'm disappointed that the warden isn't here at the moment. I met with him at the prison last month. They were very interested in doing outreach to the community and getting known by the community. And I suggested that this meeting would be a very good start for that. So my understanding was they would be here tonight.
Yes.
You have a board member with a hand up, and
Sure.
maybe you also want to invite the attendees to
Sure. Let's
speak
invite
about
them in.
whatever's on their mind.
Catherine.
Yeah, one of the follow-ups that we had from the joint meeting that was transportation and public safety is that, and so just would need your help, Cynthia, with reconstructing this, but that information could then also be provided directly to scooter shops around safety. And that meeting that was held jointly was with the NYPD. Have they provided, can we remind, what's that next step? Because we said one of the things we would do actually ahead of the holidays is like a walkthrough and be able to drop materials off.
We were supposed to provide them with a list. So I don't know if that has been compiled. So, and Gerber would get the materials for us in the different languages.
So Community Board 7 needs to generate the list of all of the scooter shops that are in our district. Sorry, that's what I'm trying to put together. Is that that works, or just that we should have a total number
I
of
think it was
flyers?
the actual shops themselves, or we could just ask for a total number of flyers. That would work too. I think that might be easier. Just get a total number of flyers, and let's say in the top languages, English, Spanish, Chinese, and if they have Arabic, that would be great. I could ask for about 100 of each.
I was
Would
going to
that
say
work?
1,000, 1,000, so that they can be, provided at the point of sale. That's really what should be happening. At the point of sale for scooters in CB7, information should be provided. This should be a requirement, by the city, that this is
One
something that's
flyer of
handed out.
each, and I will make 1,000 copies.
Okay, that'll work. Thank you, Jeremy, for that. Would that work, Katie?
Yeah, and I would love to be able to also couple that with, if I don't know what's on this flyer, I'm not sure, I haven't seen it, but like anything that gets discussed today about lithium batteries, those things should be together, and that's what should be provided at the same time at point of sale in our district around things that need to happen. And I'm happy to offer, anyone who wants to do a walking tour of going to the scooter shops and dropping all this stuff off, happy to do it. But I think we should do it over the next couple of weeks, since people are making, people are always selling these things, but especially leading up to the holidays.
So I put in the chat the new FDNY smart lithium thing that they just put out, which talks about the safety tips for the devices with the lithium batteries. I just put it in English so everybody could see it, and like how to dispose them and how they're legal, and how landlords are also supposed to post this in their buildings. So we could also send it out as part of, Jeremy, just to the listserv, just to, the community, and just say, hi, please see attached, and I'll put it in the different languages so that landlords are aware of the regulation and putting it up. I think that would be very helpful to them. Jerry?
Yeah, so are we giving out to both legal, illegal, and what's that place so called? Costco? Will we pass out the flyers? A scooter shop, or sell scooters? Because Costco also sell scooters, and we have a lot of unregistered scooter or e-bike shop in Sunset Park.
I think this is an open activity to say that anyone who's doing point of sales for scooters, what should be a requirement and should be happening is 2 pieces of information should be handed out. It's the information that the NYPD talked about the last meeting, and the information about lithium batteries. Neither of those things are happening. And so I maybe that's like an activity, that's something that we can do, Jerry, to anyone who is selling scooters in our district. The weekend of December 17th. I'm just making that up, but I'm just like,
no,
maybe we can just choose a weekend afternoon or something to walk and do a walk.
I don't mind walking with you, right? The question is, BJ sells it, right? Can we approach like that type of business? Hey, you guys are selling scooters, right? Here's something that you have to give out. You think they just go follow the rule, or unless they have to go back to the corporate office to see that they could do it? right? So I don't want you to just go hit the mom and pop shop and not worry about the big chain stores. And Target. Target does it too. Do we have a Target in the area? No.
Yeah, I'll just say again, this should be happening at the city level. This should be city legislation, and this should be happening with the departments and the agencies. So the fact that it's not is an issue, but then I think we as volunteers on a community board will make a really good effort, but this needs to also be acknowledged and coordinated with the relevant city agencies. This should be something that is happening by NYPD, by FDNY, you know, by through city legislation directly with these point of sales.
But didn't they say it belongs to the Department of whatever Consumer Affairs is now too? I forgot the new name. I think that's what they said. That's the agency it falls under now. 'Cause that's who
DCWP.
Yes, DCWP, because
Consumer Worker Protection.
yeah, because I believe they said that's who, they're the ones that have the flyers and they're the ones that put it out. So it would fall under their agency. And then the community affairs officers and the NCOs just said they would do it as, you know, as a community thing, which would be good.
So maybe this is a letter, an opportunity to, you know, ask for that agency to do the thing that they're legislatively or, you know, required to do.
Maybe let's talk tomorrow. That agency was created about 2 years ago. Last week, I finally got my first liaison to it. So why don't we make that their project?
David, and is there a way we could share with the bid? There's a few stores on the bid that have scooter sales, right?
Yeah, I'm happy to, but I think we're going the long way around on this. If there's any particular licensing associated with the sales of e-scooters that originate at the city or state level, we should be able to get a master list of that. I just find it so frustrating that we as community volunteers need to walk up and down the street and brainstorm and try to figure out who's selling it or not. It just seems most frustrating. There are a few different agencies that have jurisdiction here, DOB, FDNY, and DCWP. FDNY did issue some emergency notices for buildings, right? So the other thing is where they're stored, not just the point of sale. There's a piece of legislation that was just introduced at City Council, but it's just a resolution calling on federal guidelines around e-bike sales. So I think, you know, we probably have a thoughtful conversation first with our council member about if any legislation is being introduced that, you know, requires point of sale notification as there is with so many other products. You know, I like the walking around in the grassroots aspect, but it's just so terribly inefficient and time consuming, and then it misses things. So, you know, I think we've probably got, you know, DCWP and the fire department and buildings. Why NYPD is involved, I don't know. They're not, you know, terribly close to the idea of consumer awareness and vendor and merchant education. I mean, other than, you know, traffic enforcement and such. So, you know, maybe we need to, like, you know, take a breath, understand how important this is, but like get the right people at the table so we get something done that's effective. One reporter's opinion, but yeah, and short answer to your question, yeah, I'll walk a piece of paper into any store that's selling anything and tell them something smart. That's easy. That's the easy part, but it just seems like we're leaving a lot of loose ends.
I agree. I put in the chat 2 links plus the legislation that you're talking about at the city council.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to follow up where we're at with that. But I agree with you, and seeing if we could get a list, because you're absolutely right. But I think what Jerry was alluding to earlier was correct. There's some people who just sell it without the licensing, who just sell it,
Yeah.
you know. And then David, you know, of course,
But I'd rather we were I'd rather we were using our precious knowledge of what's actually happening on the streets to address the exceptions and gaps than us from the ground up building what the city ought to be doing by its own report. So, you know, so it's like, you know, do we build the whole house or do we paint the part that somebody missed? That's the question here.
Yeah, that's a great one. And then, like you said, the one that they're storing it, right? Because the house fires that are happening is because people are overcharging them. and doing that stuff. So absolutely.
The only place I see NYPD coming in on this, they did have a long-standing program, more or less a bounty, if you can report where illegal e-bikes are being stored. That was something from a couple years ago, but I think this is a fast-moving topic, and we could be a little thoughtful about it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other thoughts or ideas? Okay, if not, we waited how long? I think we were polite. We waited 19 minutes for our gas. And hopefully maybe we could.
I have one thing. I know you don't cap a capper, you're about to head out, but Cynthia and Sam and Jeremy, remember how I've been making noise about a quality of life task force for Fifth Avenue? We were just talking about. So I just want to announce, the bid has secured some funding from the city council. There's going to be a whole press conference on Wednesday. And small bids that, mostly spend all of our money on sanitation and holiday lights. We're going to have a little cushion to do some good in the neighborhood. And this is from the fiscal year 23 city budget. So I have the wherewithal to form a group now and to sustain it over time. And I'd like to look for a convening in January. I think, we're not going to get anybody together over the holidays, but it's much along the themes that we all discussed already. And, the bid wants to be a host for those things that fall between public safety, sanitation, transportation, DCWP, and merchants. It doesn't fit in a committee. So we're going to make one for Fifth Avenue, and you all are invited.
That's excellent news, David. If you could keep us up to date, I know a lot of us would love to join that, as well as other community partners. That's amazing news. Thank you for sharing that.
Great.
And a meeting in January. That would be cool.
Cynthia, if you want to invite the attendees to share anything that they might want to.
Sure. Any attendees, if you have any concerns.
Please feel free to raise your hands. Not seeing any hands.
Okay, so I would like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that the community board is doing their annual toy drive. Please make sure that you donate some toys. They're back into doing this after 2 years. So please make sure you do that. And David, congratulations to the bid on a beautiful tree lighting.
With a hand up now.
I saw them. Congratulations on beautiful tree lighting the other day. It was great fun.
Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, Jeffrey, call the two folks.
Never Jeffrey, never. Joseph Delegati, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. This is Captain Delegati from Fire Safety. I've been on since 20 after 6.
Yay!
Fortunately, when you send the email, you're supposed to send a link so I can click onto it. Instead, I just registered as a participant. And I was put in the chat actually that I'm here. And I also called up Jeremy's phone number and left a couple of messages.
Well, we welcome you and thank you for being with us.
Can you see me?
I'm going to promote you to a panelist now.
Okay.
Beverly, while we're waiting, do you have a question?
Jeremy, can you mute Sam? He's chopping up stuff. It's very noisy.
All righty.
Oh, my apologies. I'm sorry.
Sammy, mute yourself. We hear you banging.
Oh, now I see the fire department. Right on. Hello.
Excellent. Thank you. We're so sorry, but thank you for joining us. So we're so excited that you're with us. Beverly, did you have a question before we start? You're on mute, Beverly.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Just going back to the holiday event for children, Jeremy, do we have any other information? Because I'd like to send you a check.
So yes, actually the bid has generously decided to become our fiscal conduit. So check can be made to the Sunset Park bid.
Let me write this
They
down.
will reimburse us.
So if I send the check to your office,
Yep, I will hand it to David.
just make it out to the Sunset Park bid.
Yes, and in the memo, just put CB Toy Drive.
You got it. Thank you very much. Sorry for the interruption, folks.
No worries. So we want to welcome Joseph Delegati. Is that how you say it?
That's correct. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
You
you.
probably have somebody from Department of Corrections also that is trying to get in.
We'll keep checking for him. We
All right,
haven't
yeah,
seen him.
he's probably has one of the panelists also, because like I said, usually when they send the email, there's a link we could just click onto, and we're basically, then we could actually join the meeting, not as a panelist, as a presenter.
Well, we're happy to have you with us, and
Not a problem.
thank you for joining us. And we're here to have you walk us through some of the fire safety for the holidays, as well as the new lithium battery
Yeah.
PSAs and education that has come out in our community. We have had quite a few fires, and there's some concerns regarding point of sales, and then of course storage. So we're happy that you're here with us today to discuss some of our with some fire safety tips. So you could take it away.
Usually with fire safety, we talk about the 3 Ps of fire safety. First of all, my name is Captain Joe Delegati from the Fire Safety Education Unit. We are comprised of veteran firefighters from all over the city of New York, and we work out of Fort Taunton, Queens. And we're taking a little bit of a break from the firehouse, or sometimes we just come from the firehouse and come over here to basically teach about fire safety. When we talk about fire safety, we talk about the 3 Ps of fire safety. We talk about prevention, we talk about early detection with smoke detectors, and then we talk about planning your escape, having fire drills. Having fire drills at home, just like you would have fire drills at work and you would have fire drills in school. Same thing, we have to be careful, okay? When it comes to prevention, even though it is now the holiday season, we do hit on that, but we can't forget about the other things also. We can't forget about the other, so especially during the holidays, cooking safety, okay? Never leave anything unattended while you're cooking, okay? Never leave anything that, especially if it's unattended. Now, if you have like children in the home, try to keep at least a 3-foot barrier away from that stove or oven so nobody gets burned. All right, we talk about that. We talk about also, if you're cooking something, all right, and now if there's a grease fire, never use water on a grease fire, okay? If you choose, you could use either a tight-fitting lid. It's a lot easier when I go live because I can bring all my props with me and actually talk to you, put a little table in front of everybody and do a little bit of a demonstration. So here I'm a little bit limited. So with the tight-fitting lid, what you do is, with the gloved hand, of course, you place the lid on top of the pan, all right? What it does is it takes the oxygen component out of the fire, okay? Because fire loves oxygen. The more oxygen you give it, the bigger it gets. What I don't want anybody to do is, I don't want anybody to lift it up and I'll run towards the sink and put water in it, because what you'll do is you'll make the fire a lot bigger. Plus, by putting water on a grease fire, it can splatter all over you and it can burn you. Also, during the holidays, we talk about electrical fires. And, it's just cool. It might be coincidental that it's actually when the coldest time of the year. So sometimes, unfortunately, people, their heat isn't that great. So they resort to space heaters. If you do purchase a space heater, make sure it has a UL on it. Okay, UL stands for Underwriters Laboratory. Okay, that means it's been tested. Also, make sure it's the type of device where if it falls over, it shuts off automatically. Okay, it shuts off automatically. Now, as small as this is, it's still an appliance. It's still an appliance. Okay, so it has to be directly plugged into an outlet, not an extension cord. Never plug an appliance into an extension cord. It needs its own dedicated outlet. Okay. And also now, since this does give off heat, okay, it does give off heat. So leave it at the minimum of 3 to 4 feet away from anything combustible. Okay. Clothing, paper, bed sheets, especially if you use it in your bedroom. Okay, so make sure it's at least 3 to 4 feet away from anything combustible because it does give off heat. Okay. Now, we also talk about smoking cigarettes. If you're going to smoke, please use a sturdy ashtray. Okay. Before you discard those cigarette butts into a trash can, pour some water into it. Okay, before you put it into that trash can, drown out those cigarette butts. Also, what comes with matches and lighters? What comes with cigarettes? Matches and lighters. Keep these away, especially if you got children. Okay, keep them locked up or keep them up high. All right, especially during the holiday time, if people come to visit you. Or be mindful, if you got small children and you're visiting somebody that smokes, ask them. You have cigarettes, you smoke cigarettes, or you can tell by the smell of the house. All right. Do you have matches and lighters laying around? Please keep them away from the kids. Okay, because what they'll do is they won't do it in front of you, but they're curious and they'll see what it does. And it could cause tragic results. All right. During the whole time where I was actually listening in, at your meeting, and there's the concern about the e-bikes and lithium batteries. All right. Right now, we're at a point, we're at a point where it's like every week there's a fire caused by it. Okay. And, it's like with the fire department, there's a lot of things that are thrown at us, and we got to figure out now, all right, how are we going to put this fire out? Okay. Or how are we going to prevent this? We're coming out with, we're doing the research, and I'm sure everybody else is doing the research also. These lithium batteries, when they're overheated and they're damaged, they cause a lot of heat. Okay, a lot of heat. And same thing as, and more consequential than a space heater or a candle that's next to your anything combustible. These things, I mean, they produce so much heat where anything around it, basically it's at its ignition level. It catches fire, and there's high heat in that apartment or home. And we have we're starting with the paperwork. We're printing out leaflets and stuff. Don't buy from manufacturers, aftermarket and stuff like that. I was watching something on what channel was that? Basically, because I live in the city too. It's basically the city council channel, the CUNY channel. And they were having, there's a couple of speakers there, and there's a couple of people talking about lithium batteries, and could somebody tell one from the other? I really don't know. Could one tell one from the other? So if somebody's out buying it, could they tell which is I guess, how do you say, remade, or like a transmission or whatever, refurbished? Okay, and which is it? These are things that we have to know. We have to let the consumers know which is safer than the other. Okay, I mean that fire up on in Upper Manhattan, Sutton Place, where a poor person basically the only thing they as a last resort was to hang out of a window. Okay, I mean that reminded me of 9/11. Okay, so what we're suggesting to people is don't recharge them in your home. Okay, if they're damaged, if in any way, if it gets overheated, okay, we have to replace them. We have to be careful with these things. When we go out on building inspections and we're walking around buildings, the individual companies, and if I see one of those sitting on the staircase inside of a building, if I could, knock on the door of the super and say, all right, do you know whose bike this is? All right. Or do you know who lives in this apartment? And we'll knock on the door and say, whose is this? Because this is sitting right here. If this thing catches, if for any reason, if this thing catches fire, it's on a staircase, these poor people can't get down the stairs. If something's going on with their building. So, we have to try our best. It takes all of us, to figure out this problem.
Captain, I have a question. So I know we talked about most people, when they think of these lithium batteries, they think of e-scooters and electric bikes.
Right.
But lithium batteries are also on cell phones, laptops, and tablets. And we don't see fires as often with those. But I have heard of people who sleep with their cell phone charging under their pillow.
Right.
Good idea, bad idea.
Bad idea. Even though these type of batteries that run these devices are of a smaller voltage, it's still a bad idea. It's still a bad idea. We all have done it, once or twice. You have your alarm clock. You don't want to wake up anybody that's in the room with you, so you put it on vibrate. So basically, you put it so your head vibrates and it doesn't wake up the whole house. But it is a bad idea, especially if the wiring is a little bit on the older side, where it may be, scratched or chipped or something, or even where it connects into the phone or the laptop.
Right.
So it is a bad idea, but like I said, the voltage on those things it's not the same voltage on these e-bikes, on these e-batteries for the e-mobility devices. And that's right now, that's what's, we're hearing about this all the time in the news. So
And
hopefully, yes, ma'am.
Then if someone wants to get rid of a lithium battery, let's say I have an old e-scooter or old bike or, old one that I don't want to use, trash it with sanitation?
Well, I think if a sanitation worker took it and put it in their truck, I think they would be fired on the spot. So no, I don't think they would take it. But for further information, you could probably call 311 and then they'll refer you to sanitation. But I believe there's actually a website we can go onto where how to dispose of them properly. So I don't think sanitation, I know sanitation, back in the day, they wouldn't take propane tanks.
Right.
If you had an old propane tank, they wouldn't take it. So it's the same thing. They're not going to take it. But there was always places where you could dispose of them.
So make sure no one throws it in the trash.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're learning about this ourselves. Sometimes it's a good idea to know your because I consider fire the enemy. So know your enemy. Know what causes the enemy. Know what causes the enemy, and train a little bit about looking at these things. Could you take them off the bicycle when you charge them? And by doing that, does it cause damage? When you're hitting bumps while you're on these e-bikes, jarring it, does that cause damage? By sitting out in the rain, getting exposed to water, does that cause damage to these things? There's different things that can cause damage. And, sometimes we got to do little things on our own, personally look up things to educate ourselves so we could educate other people.
Great.
And yes,
Somebody has a question. So before we go on, Catherine, Katie?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for this presentation. And I think we have been, and our families and communities here in Community Board 7, Sunset Park, and Windsor Terrace, has been so impacted, right, by the actual like impact of fires. But just more specifically, a lot of the questions that are being raised around safety and the lithium batteries, especially, because that's like some of the more recent fires. So there are, I'm just noting there's only 15 people on this call. Most of these folks are community board members. And I recognize, you're with the fire safety education unit. So where does accountability rely? Where is their accountability for these shops that are selling these types of batteries, providing this information? And who is responsible for undertaking that work? Because you can provide the information as the FDNY, but which city agency is accountable for actually making sure that this information is communicated and cascaded?
well, I'm going to be honest with you, I really don't know. I mean, we could work as a task force with consumer affairs, with the fire marshals of the FDNY, but we got to basically something's got to be formed up, or even NYPD.
I think NYPD also said that they could provide information, but so that what was being discussed earlier, I think you overheard it, is that the accountability and responsibility is with the Department of Consumer Affairs. So that's what I'm hearing. You guys can be on the ground when something happens, and you can respond, but that there's a failure of the agency in being able to actually do what needs to happen with the point of sales for these electric lithium batteries and bikes and scooters. I just want to be on the record that is, coming out, right? That you guys, that this is something that you can respond to, you can deal with impacts, but this is really a massive gap.
Also, Captain, in terms of other things, David, thank you for putting in the chat the apartment building fire safety. That includes now the e-bike fire safety, but I know at the last time we had FDNY come, they also spoke about other things like making sure the safety notices are on apartment doors and closing the doors and having working smoke alarms. Can you talk a little bit about that and the partnership that you have with the American Red Cross to get fire alarms that are up to code?
Surely, I'd be happy to. It's called, one of you, if you could take the phone number down and give it to everybody else, called Sound the Alarm Program. And the number is 1-877 Red Cross, and leave off the last S. That's 1-877 Red Cross, which is also 1-877-733-2767. That's 1-877-733-2767. What the program is, you call up that number, it's called Sound the Alarm. You give them your information, it's going to be a recording. They'll call you back and they'll show up with the van with a couple of installers, and they'll install these combination smoke detectors in your home, which also has a lithium battery inside. Okay, so you don't have to change your batteries anymore. Okay, even if you still have them, and if you have a few in your home, they'll evaluate how many you need and they'll install them, and it's all for free. Okay, they'll put one in every bedroom, they'll put one by the kitchen area, and they'll probably put one in the hallway also. And at the minimum, they'll put one on each level of your home. It's a great program. Early detection is very important. It's basically the difference between us getting there and the fire is in a smaller stage, or if the fire is in a larger stage where it's going out the windows, and it's going to be a lot tougher for us to put out, and it could also put a lot of more people in peril. Okay, so we want, if there is going to be a fire, we want it to be detected early enough where you can get out, get your family out, and call 911, and get yourself out safely and wait for us to come to put the fire out. Okay, did you get the number?
I did, and I dropped the link in the chat as well, and we'll include it in our follow-up notes so that everybody is aware of the program. I use the program myself, and you're right. They come in, they do an assessment of your home, and they actually tell you where's the best place to put the fire alarm in your home. And regarding a plan, so there's a fire, God forbid, what is it? What are some tips for the planning? I know you said earlier that everyone should have a fire drill.
Yes.
But what
Everybody
are
should
some
have-
tips as well as you're
Well-
leaving the home?
Well, as you're getting out of your home, get down low, get to a wall, because all walls lead to windows and doors. Okay. Once you get out, especially if you live in an apartment building, once you get out, make sure that door closes behind you. All right. Because know what type of building you live in. All right. Okay. Know what type, if you live in a fireproof multiple dwelling, or if you live in a non-fireproof multiple dwelling, a combustible building or non-combustible building. Know what type of building, and there should be actually a fire safety plan given to you by either the management company, the landlord, or even the super. And it should be attached to the back of your door, okay, to tell you what type of building it is and what to do. Of course, if the fire is in your apartment, you have to get out, okay? You have to get out. But if you're in a non-fireproof combustible building, now you get to the door of your apartment, you feel the door at the back of your hand. If that door is hot to the touch, okay, or if you open the door up and you see smoke and heat and you feel the heat, close that door. Use your fire escape. Okay, use that fire escape. If you do get out, okay, and you do feel that you can make it down those stairs without getting caught up in the smoke, all right, still you should close the door, okay, because we don't want anybody trapped in the hallways. Okay, leave the heat and the fire in the apartment, okay? But never take the elevator. Never take an elevator down. An elevator is basically, it's inside of an elevator shaft, which is like a chimney. Smoke and fire heat could get caught up in there, and actually, if you get trapped in that inside of that elevator, all right. If you live in a non-combustible building, fireproof multiple dwelling, of course, fire is in your apartment, you have to get out. Okay, but like I said before, close the door. Okay, close that door. Don't let the heat go out into the hallway, into the staircase. Close the door. Okay, because if somebody decides that they wanted to leave the apartment, which we don't recommend, if their apartment isn't on fire, we don't want them getting caught up in a hallway. Okay, so close that door. Now, if fire is not in your apartment, okay, fire is not in your apartment, what you could do is, we recommend, unless somebody from the fire department tells you, what we recommend is that you shelter in place. Okay, you shelter in place. Because in those type of buildings, it's supposed to hold the fire in each individual unit. Okay.
I have a question. So you said that if I live in an apartment building, someone's supposed to give me the safety plan. If I can't get it, is that something that's a public document, or it must be given to me by my landlord or a building manager?
It should be given to you by a builder, because basically each building management company is supposed to file it with the FDNY, so it's supposed to be individualized. You know, we give a general we talk about, if you live in one type of building or another type of building, generally in this booklet, but there should be something personal to your building.
Okay, and if they don't have one, if the manager says, I have no idea what you're talking about, do I call my local fire station? Do I call 311? Do I call the fire marshal?
I would call 311 and ask the buildings department why it isn't this supplied to you.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And that would have the plan, like you said, for escaping the building, the type of building it is, right? Because you talk about like non-combustible, combustible buildings, people
Right,
maybe,
right,
well, I don't
right.
know, I just live in my apartment.
Right,
You know?
I understand. I mean, you can go into the Department of Buildings website and put your address down, and it's supposed to actually tell you what construction it is and what type of building it is. But that's supposed to be provided to you by the building management.
Okay, that's good to know. And now, as you know, we also spoke a little bit about the holidays, but I know a lot of people use and you have one on your desk, the outlets to
Mhm.
plug in things. So I know you said no heavy appliances. So what else should be cautionary about using them? Because I know, a lot of people live in old homes, they don't have
Yeah.
necessarily enough electric outlets. So, they'll put in one and have like 10 things plugged into that.
Right.
So
Instead
what
of
are
just-
what are some thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are, this one I have in my hand, it's basically an extension cord. That's all it is. It's a glorified extension cord. It doesn't give you any more power. It just there's more things you can plug into it. So basically, behind that wall now is getting a lot more harder. It's basically giving more heat off, okay? Because now it's powering more things. All right. Do not use appliances with this. Just use basically maybe a phone charger, a lamp, maybe a TV. But the TVs these days are so big that, I don't even know it can handle it. So if you use one of these, okay, if it starts discoloring or if it starts, some like smoky odor comes out of it, by all means, get a new one or don't use it at all. Okay. Unfortunately, where people live, they may not have enough outlets in their home. So I don't know if you're going to want to hear this, but they may have to speak to their landlord to update the electricity in their home. Okay. When it comes to the holidays, all right, especially if you use maybe if you want to use a Christmas tree or a live one, make sure that it's well hydrated. Okay. All right, where it's not dry. If you're running your hands onto the needles and then now you pull onto the branch and all the needles are in your hand, I think it's a little bit dried out. Okay. And now you're putting hot lights on top of those, you can cause a fire. Okay, you can cause a fire. So just if you do purchase one, make sure that it's fresh, it's not dead. All right. Just be careful how many things you plug into it also. I know some of these lights, the older lights, you could plug one into the other. All right, you're piggybacking them, but now you're using a lot of power. They could overheat also. People starting to use big LED lights. They're a little bit cooler to the touch. Okay. And it's not as hazardous. But you have to be careful. You have to keep an eye on everything. That's all.
And I noticed you have a fire extinguisher. So do you recommend that people actually get those and have them in the house in case? And if so, where should they keep one?
Well, if you want to purchase one, now everybody's different. Everybody's different. If you want to purchase one, you could purchase one at any Home Depot or Lowe's or Target, but make sure it's an ABC, okay, for category A, category B, and category C type of fires. Okay, category A are ordinary combustibles, category B are fuel fires, and category C are energized electrical equipment. Okay. Like I said, inside the book, we talk about a lot, like I said, when I'm live, I can stand in front of you and actually show you how to use it. But I'll recommend the book. Everything that I'm speaking about is in this book. fdny.smart, okay, where you can look, you can actually look it up online. All right, we have it in all different languages, and all the information is there. All right, but to remember how to use that extinguisher, just remember the word pass, PASS. The P stands for pull the pin. The A stands for aiming at the base of the fire. The S stands for squeezing the handle, and the last S stands for sweeping side to side with your back to a way out. Okay. It has a 10-year shelf life, even though if the gauge reads green, if it's over 10 years, it's still, whatever's inside of it might be all clumped up. So it's time to get a new one.
Okay, great. Gambino, I saw your hand was up. Did you have a question?
Who, me?
No, one of the participants, Gambino.
Yes, thank you very much for taking my question. I did want to ask, as far as public service announcements go, what are the things we can do in order for us to better inform the public? I know we have charging stations and Wi-Fi charging stations on every other block. Is that something we can do as a community board committee in order for us to inform the public on lithium batteries? Who's in charge of those Wi-Fi stations, charging stations? And what is the FDNY doing in order to do outreach to these stores as well?
Well, as far as the FDNY, we'd have to refer to our community affairs director, and basically what they coordinate all our community efforts. Okay, and then they reach out to people like me to talk to individual community boards.
Okay, that sounds great. And if anybody else can answer this for me, Chairman, please, if anything, on the charging stations, can we place messages on those stations in order to inform the public, besides giving out flyers as well to these
So
businesses?
those are Link NYC. There are 7 of them in the community, and we could ask them to put a message up there. We just need the appropriate message to put there.
That's a great idea, Gambino.
Sounds great, guys. I appreciate that.
Does anybody else have any more questions for our captain who's here today? Gave us some very good information on preventing and planning, as well as early detection and some things that we could do. And David and Joy, thank you both for dropping some links in the chat to both the fire safety booklet as well as to some upcoming legislation. Is there anything that we could do also, Captain, to educate people? I know you said you have the flyers and they do come in different languages at the FDNY Smart. If we were to need, let's say, some people here, they want to give it out at someplace else or their place of business, they would contact FDNY Smart and say, hey, can I get like 50 or whatever number, or just download it from the webpage?
I believe they could just download from the webpage.
Okay, and then yourself, you're available to provide information to schools, community groups, and let's say I'm a landlord or I live in a big apartment building and I want you guys to come and educate my neighbors. Is that something you do too, or just for big community boards?
No, we do that also for individual buildings. We go to schools, we go to senior centers, we go to businesses, we go all over the place.
And all they would have to do is fill out the form that's on the fdnysmart.com, correct?
That's correct. I mean, you used to be able to just call the phone number 718-281-3870, but I guess they want to be a little bit more modernized, and they want to just communicate through emails.
Okay, great. Does anyone have any questions or any comments for FDNY? No? Well, I want to thank you for being with us today, Captain. We really
You're welcome.
appreciate it. Our apologies for the mix-up in the beginning, but we're glad you were here and that we were able to have you speak with us and join us today and give us these tips. We look forward to having you back once the legislation for the lithium batteries gets rolled out and we have more information. But we do appreciate the PSA that you shared with us, as well as the availability of giving information to the community as this evolves. As you said, it's something that's to do with the advent of the increase of using these types of motorized vehicles. So we hope to learn more, and we hope to have you back when we get more information on that, or when you get more information.
Not a problem. Like I said, when whoever the communication was between, if they could send a link where I could just click on, because that's what usually I do. I'll just click onto it, about 15 minutes before the meeting, and then and that's what I actually did. But it actually asked me to register on, so I was actually on at about 6:25 as a participant, and that's why I kept writing into the chat. And actually, then I figured, let me raise my hand, and that's when he called me. That's why I was able to let you know I'll be here.
Yeah, we were very engrossed in our conversation, but we appreciate you.
And I also left 2 messages on Jeremy's voicemail.
Yeah, so we appreciate you, and we want to thank
Not
you
a
for your
problem.
service. We want to
Not a
thank you
problem.
for your service, as well as all of FDNY. You guys are very brave. You
Thank
do
you
a
very
job
much.
that's many of us would not undertake. Like you said, the enemy is the fire, and you go right into it. So I
Right.
do want to thank you for your service and
Always a
your
pleasure.
diligence for doing that for us, and keeping the community safe and educating us, right? And having this part of the education, which is very important. So we look forward to having continued collaborations and conversations with FDNY and the Fire Safety Education Unit. And we hope to have an in-person one to have the CPR courses, because I know that's something that you guys do too.
Oh, they
because
do a
that's
great
something-
job. Oh, they
Yes.
do a great job. Yeah, their building is like right next door to us.
Yes, they
They-
do. They do an awesome job to get
Yeah.
people trained in basic first aid and CPR.
Yeah.
Our neighborhood, if I don't know if you know, but we were the ones that had the mass subway shooter was right here on 36th Street. And many of the civilians were the ones that went in and provided first aid while they were waiting for EMS, FDNY, and police to come. So I think it's important for everyone to have a basic understanding of first aid, so that they're
Exactly.
able to render that. So we hope that pretty soon, maybe in the spring, we're able to partner up and offer an in-person CPR and first aid course for those who want to take it here in the community board. So
It's a great program. And like I even talk about, because like we go to the schools with a fire safety trailer and we fill it with with fake smoke, Hollywood smoke we call it, and we teach the children in the schools how to stay low, different and different scenarios on what to do. Feel the door. If the door's hot, we have another door you can go through. But we even tell them, you may not use this today, you may not use this tomorrow, but you never know. 10 years from now, you're because especially if we teach the younger kids at school, you may be away at college, and this will come back to you. And same thing with the CPR training and the first aid, because something like that, a mass casualty incident, we could use any help we could get, and
Yes.
it really and it comes in handy.
yes, we appreciate it. And I actually had a FDNY. I seen them at the Fifth Avenue Festival. They always
Okay.
used to bring the truck, David, many years ago. And I remember going in and doing the activity exactly you said with my
Right.
kids, going in with them and
The
you
smokehouse.
guys showing them that with the smokehouse. Yes. So it is very educational. And I agree that teaching the children at a young age how to do that and not fear it, but actually react to it in a strong way is a good idea.
Right. We try to teach. Yes, it's okay to be scared. It's okay, because if you're not scared, you're not normal. But don't panic. Don't panic. Okay, because when you panic, you can't think straight. Okay, so we practice. That's what the fire drills. You practice at home. And when the kids are small, if you can make it a game where you blindfold them and say, all right, we're gonna try to go out this door. Feel the door at the back of your hand before you open it to make sure, because if it's a hot door, we don't want to open up a hot door. Make sure you don't hide, you go outside. Okay, figure out which doors and windows lead to or exits, which lead to the outside. Not a door that goes into a closet, not a door that goes into a bathroom. Okay, because these unfortunately these tragic things have happened where unfortunately we found people what they thought they were doing the right thing, by filling up a bathtub full of water and hiding out in there, because it's not the fire, it's the smoke. It's the smoke inhalation. Okay, it's the smoke inhalation that could be fatal. Okay, and a lot of these things that we're talking, if I missed on a couple of things, they're in this book, the FDNY Smart Book. Okay, a lot of things that we're speaking about. All
Yes,
right,
I'm gonna make sure I share the link. David actually dropped it in the link and so did Joy. So we're gonna make sure we
Okay,
include it
great.
in our minutes and send it out. But once again, thank you. Thank you for your service.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for taking the time to be with us this evening. And if there's no further questions or comments from participants on the board, I want to wish everyone a great night, and I'll be seeing you next week at our
Okay.
regular meeting.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a good night.
Jeremy.
Take care. No problem.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.